What is up, guys? Pie Muffin here, and we are back with another Tales of Arise video. Today, we're going to be talking about things, mechanics, whatever I decide to title this video. Just kind of everything from past games, you know, certain mechanics that may have been in certain titles that I would like to see return, and just kind of an overall discussion here about what could possibly be in Tales of Arise. And obviously this is an open discussion, so feel free to leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you all think. But starting right off, my biggest thing that I would like to see back, and you know, I just finished beating the main arc for Tales of Graces for the first time, because I didn't have a PS3 before, so this was my first time playing through it. And you know, ever since Tales of Graces, and you know, moving forward, for the most part, we haven't really seen a traditional HP/mana system. I mean, HP has always kind of been a normal thing in Tales games, obviously, but in more recent titles, they've kind of done away with mana in general, and while that can be a good thing for some, like obviously Tales of Grace has handled it fine. You know, you had your CC gauge that, you know, you could, if you were smart and you knew how to play the game, you know, you could keep refilling that like it's nothing. But for me personally, you know, my favorite titles gameplay-wise are Symphonia and Vesperia. It just feels like there's kind of a lack of, for the most part, in items when it comes to battle, you know. Really, in Berseria and Zestiria, really the only items you really had to kind of work with in battle, you had your three types of jet, you know, you had your apple gel, your, what is it, peach gel, and what is it, grape gel? I forget what the three are, but the 3 HP gels, you maybe had a team healing gel, and then, you know, you had your life bottles, your hourglass, your all divide. But for the most part, there wasn't an influx of items. You know, you play Vesperia, you have a long list of items you can just kind of choose from when you're in battle, depending on the situation. And to be honest, I kind of miss that. I'd prefer to have more items as opposed to less items. And I understand it's kind of like, you know, it gives you more focus on the combat itself and knowing how to play the game rather than relying on items. But it's just more fun to me if we do have those kinds of items. So I would love for this Tales game to go back to a traditional HP and mana system. You know, obviously we have the different like herbs you can use to increase those stats and everything if you need them. So I would like for it to come back. I'm not expecting it to come back, but this game does seem to be going for a more worldwide appeal, so it'd be kind of nice to do something like that rather than just having an HP system and then, you know, having CC or something like that. I have nothing, you know, I loved playing through Graces, I loved playing through Zestiria and Berseria, but something about having mana is just more appealing to me. So that's my first point. Secondly, and I'm just going to read this word for word what I wrote down. Have an equipment system that actually feels worth putting time into. So my biggest issue with the equipment system is really in Zestiria and Berseria. You know, Zestiria was like, okay, you just upgrade it. And Berseria was kind of a similar thing. You know, you're just upgrading the same equipment, but there wasn't really any kind of, what's the word for it? Like, you're really just gathering random materials, and then, you know, there really wasn't, even in Berseria, there wasn't really a point in upgrading the weapons for too long, because you're going to get the next weapon so shortly after. There were so many pieces of equipment, you know, for your entire main cast in Berseria, that was like, by the time I needed the materials to upgrade stuff, I was already getting my next weapon for Velvet, so it was like, why do I even bother upgrading this piece of equipment? Obviously, I'm someone who doesn't sell weapons, for the most part, because I had been so used to, like in Symphonia, you needed the older weapons to basically forge into new weapons. So that's something I would like to see. So for one, there's that. There's also what Grace has had with the, what is it, not the mixer, the dualize system. Where you would have a weapon and then you'd have a specific item and it would forge into a completely new weapon. I would love to see something like that, like actual like weapons turning into other weapons. Personally, my favorite weapon system is still in Vesperia, I know, popular opinion. but there was just such a variety of different weapons, and I loved that each weapon had its own skills that you had to keep using that weapon to learn. So even if, you know, you got a new weapon, it may not have the exact skill that you want at that time, so you go back and use the old weapons to actually grind them up. So there was actually a reason to use these weapons. So I would like to see something similar to that when it comes to equipment overall. Next thing, world exploration. There hasn't really been any kind of importance for that in a good while, you know. Obviously in Symphonia, there was a lot of world exploration. You could find a whole, you know, there were some like mini skits you would find in certain places if you explored enough. You know, maybe some random items will be located somewhere. I mean, even in Vesperia, there were random islands where you could find monsters that you wouldn't fight if you just followed directly through the story. So I'd like to see something where there's actual kind of, it's rewarding to explore the world instead of like, because in Zestiria and Berseria, you really just, once you had the, well, in Berseria it was an item, it was the Inoff bottle or whatever it was called. And in Zestiria, you just teleported with each of the different, like, lords of the land. So there was really no reason, once you were done with an area, you really didn't need to go back there. There wasn't any, like, secret weapons later on that would pop up or anything. Or just items in general. So I'd like to see, you know, because this is a next-gen Tales, I expect, you know, it to be a vast land. I'm not expecting open world, because that's not what Tales is. But I would like to see, you know, maybe a reason to go back to these certain places. And it is going to be a 2-planet story. So I expect each planet to at least have a map as large as, you know, maybe Zestiria or Berseria had. So that'd be kind of nice. My next big thing, combos. So Berseria was... I would say Berseria was good for getting people into the series and maybe for, like, kids. Just mainly because there really isn't a lot of thought that you have to put into the actual combos. You know, you look at a game like Symphonia, Destiny, Berseria, Graces, you know, you really gotta kind of be like, okay, so this art is, I guess if I use this art, then I can transition into this one. So you really had to experiment a lot to see which arts were gonna go together. In Berseria, it told you. Like, when you scrolled over an art, it would have on the bottom an arrow, and then it would say the art that you're supposed to use next with it. There wasn't a lot of creativity with that. So it was cookie cutter, you know, just slap things on, and you didn't even have to set up your different arts, because obviously, I'm going to use PlayStation controller kind of explanation here. You had X, you had square, you had triangle, you had circle. Each one had a different string of combos. I believe square, triangle, and circle, you could just leave and it would update on its own as you leveled up with the ideal arts to kind of go with it. And X was really the only one you had to do yourself, but even then you didn't even had to, because it just had an auto thing where it would just pick a random art and do it that way. So it really didn't feel like there was a lot of kind of stuff for you to do there. My next big thing, I really do miss this kind of goes with the whole world exploration thing, but I loved having the Rayards in Symphonia just kind of flying through the sky. I loved having Baul in Vesperia. It wasn't much of a world exploration because you didn't actually get to see it, but even having the flying machine in Graces was something. Because you could scan the areas and kind of see locations maybe you hadn't even found before, but with Berseria was okay with the boat. You know, obviously you had the Van Altia to kind of traverse, but you didn't. If you had gotten to control the Van Altia, I would give it more props, but it was still kind of just, okay, I click here and it goes. I mean, Graces is kind of like that too. You didn't really control it at all, fly it overhead. I do miss being able to fly things overhead, and I feel like with a 2-planet structure for this plot, they could definitely do something with that, because I mean, you got to get between the planets somehow, so they could have some kind of flying machine that goes to and from the planets, and then on each planet just kind of fly overhead. I mean, obviously, I don't know how often we're going to be going between the 2 planets. You know, you could spend most of your time on Dana, and then once you get to the halfway point of the game, maybe you go to Rena, and then maybe after whatever you do in Rena, the last, like, 20% of the game is going back and forth. Because obviously two planets that don't agree with each other, obviously it's going to kind of be like Symphonia, where in the end, hopefully, they kind of agree with each other. My favorite, so moving forward from that, I want some kind of ability/skill tree system. Tales of Xillia 1 has my favorite Tales kind of... I mean, really, a lot of Tales games don't really have a skill system, but I really do love the whole aspect of like a skill tree, because Final Fantasy does it in a lot of titles. Actually, I think all of them. I'm not going to say all because I haven't played all the titles, but I love just, you know, every time you level up, you get a few skill points, you allocate them wherever you want them to be, and that overall changes the experience. And if you do another playthrough, maybe you put skill points in a different area. So I would definitely love to see something like that in Tales of Arise as well, because, you know, when you're leveling up in some of these newer titles like Zestiria and Berseria, it's like you level up, okay, cool. You know, I'm not really doing anything as I level up. It's just kind of like you just fight. You know, you get your general stat increase, and that's kind of it. So having a skill tree where you actually have points to allocate will make it feel more RPG-like. This one's kind of a given. Obviously, there are a lot of fans who like the new kind of look of Tales, while others are still needing time to get used to it. But one thing I do hope they keep, because Tales always kind of had this kind of anime look to it, and now it kind of doesn't as much. You know, it looks more, you know, Final Fantasy-ish, I guess you could say. But I do hope they still keep the full body skits and the anime cutscenes. And obviously, when the skits pop up, I do want them to be anime models still. Just how all the Tales games have kind of been. So I hope that they keep that. And then my kind of final point here, side quests. You know, I feel like most Tales games have done an okay job when it comes to side quests, but I would like to see, especially since we're kind of in this next-gen kind of Tales era, I would love to see an influx of tons and tons of side quests. Like, maybe have a quest board in every town in the game, and there are certain quests that only can be found in those specific areas. You know, Xillia and Xillia 2 had a variety of side quests to do. Vesperia had an okay amount, Symphonia, and Zestiria and Berseria had some decent story ones, but there wasn't a lot of, like, side quests. I really just kind of want side quests that allow us to kind of learn more about this world instead of just what the main story tells us. You know, maybe there will be a side quest that will tell us about, you know, the surrounding area of a village and how they kind of live their life and stuff like that. Or maybe when we go to Rena, there will be a side quest that'll let us know more about their people besides what the characters in our party are going to tell us. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Just quick little thoughts on what I'd like to see moving forward with Tales of Arise. Obviously, if any news comes out for the game, we will cover it here on the channel. But like I said in the beginning, let me know down below what you guys think. What would you like to see in Tales of Arise, you know, gameplay-wise, you know, world-wise, lore-wise. Definitely let me know down below. And with that, that is all for this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more if you're new to the channel. I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone.